This is the Wealth Junkie Show. Brought to you by CEO Capital Partners.
Welcome back, Wealth Junkies. Thanks for joining us today. We've got an awesome show here for you. But before we get started, make sure you guys go out there, join our Facebook group. At the end of the show, we'll give you guys our Facebook link and subscribe to our show on iTunes or wherever you're listening to the show, so that way you won't miss any of our daily episodes. But without further ado, Will, why don't we go ahead and introduce our guest today?
Yeah, thanks so much, Brandon. Really appreciate it. So today we have Crider on the show. So he is a top 100 business podcaster. He's a public speaker, and he is only 20 years old. So that's quite the resume to be only 20 years old. With that, Apple, why don't you give the listeners your background and what got you to where you are today?
For sure. Well, first of all, Brandon and Will, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super stoked to be chatting it up with y'all. But yeah, as far as my background goes, like you mentioned, I'm 20 years old, so haven't been doing really anything for an extended period of time. I mean, have really been so I'll take it back a little bit, a couple of years. So I really got started with the world of like putting out content and sort of quote unquote entrepreneurship probably when I was like 17, coming on 18 years old. Because at that point, I was really discovering that I had this passion for personal finance. Throughout my entire life, I've always been super cognizant of how my parents, especially, and also my friends interacted with money. So at that age, I kind of shifted that interest into something that I wanted to actually act on. And so I'd been working summer jobs since honestly about 12 years old. My uncle owns a campground. So as soon as I was old enough to run the weed whip or like stand behind the cash register, he had me out there doing stuff for him. So been making money on the side every summer. I'm a huge saver. So I've been saving that money in a savings account. And again, like I said, 17, 18 years old came around and I was like, I'm sitting on a couple $1,000s here. There's got to be something I could be doing with this money that's better than it sitting in this US bank savings account earning like 0.00001% interest. So at that point, I sort of dove into the world of investing, building credit, budgeting, and really just learning as much as I could, reading as many books as I could, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Intelligent Investor, and really just getting as much exposure as I could to this sort of new industry or this sort of new area that I just got introduced to. So from there, I was starting to tell my friends about it because I was like super jazzed about like personal finance, investing, and all this stuff. And so I went out there and I was telling my friends like after school, we'd be hanging out like after high school, and I'd be like, "Hey guys, I just learned about this thing called a Roth IRA. It's super cool. You can like avoid paying taxes." And my friends were like, "Dude, like chill out. I'm like 17 years old. I don't need to care about that. Like I'll think about that when I'm like 45." So I got shot down pretty quickly by my friends, so nobody wanted to listen to me. So I decided to start a YouTube channel, basically just saying the things that I would have said to my friends, putting it on the internet, and then being like, "Hey, if you guys do want to learn about what I'm learning about, here's the link. But if you don't, no worries. I'm gonna just keep doing my thing." So I was doing that for a couple months. Was never really, I mean, it was really just a passion project for me. It was kind of like a creative outlet to just like put what I was trying to get out to the world. So I never really like turned it into a business or anything. But that was sort of my first introduction to creating content or sort of putting myself out there to the world. And then we can sort of talk about where that went from there. But that's sort of like the intro to intro.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, you know, like you said, most people at that age aren't too concerned about the IRAs and things like that. So that's
not in the least.
That's
awesome. I was in college or high school and college, and all my money was going into getting drunk and loaded on drugs. So yeah, that's pretty impressive that you had the mindset of building wealth and saving your money. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Apple, you're kind of a master of personal branding and in that sense. Can you kind of dive into some personal branding? Kind of what is it and why is it so important?
Yeah, for sure. So what I kind of realized when I had started my YouTube channel and once it had been going for a few months was that I was building up these people who were consistently watching my videos, consistently commenting, sending me messages, and really just engaging with me. And these were people that I'd never met in real life before. These were just strangers from the internet who now had an interest in me, what I was doing. If I didn't upload for a little while, they'd ask me where I had been, like what I was up to. So like that really showed me that there was this power in putting yourself out there to the world, in that people that you didn't even know would start to consume your content, but also to engage with you and to form a real interest in like who you are and what you are up to. So that was kind of when I discovered the world of like quote unquote personal branding. And when I say personal branding, I'm really just referring to like your reputation, because a personal brand to me really just signifies like, what do people think of when they hear your name? So when somebody hears Apple Crider, what do they think of? Like, that is my personal brand. So once I had started putting out content, I had people who knew who I was, who had these associations with my name and with my content. So at that point, I really decided to try to like leverage it and leverage it in terms of like really expanding my audience and growing the amount of people that I had exposure to. So that led me to Instagram, where I decided to first grow my own account on Instagram and try to like build up my following there, and then start to grow other people's accounts for them. And this was kind of interesting for me because all throughout high school, I didn't have any social media accounts. I didn't do Instagram. I didn't do Snapchat. And like I was in high school, like when these things were like just popping off for the first time, and like everybody had them. So I'd always been very like averse to social media. And that was mostly just because I just felt like I didn't need it. I'm somebody who doesn't like to add things to my life unless I feel like they're absolutely essential. So all of those things kind of just felt like more work and more stress and more of all these things that I didn't need. So this was kind of my first time getting involved with social media, was first YouTube and then Instagram. So figured out the Instagram game pretty quickly and how to continue to grow my personal brand over there, and then growing other people's personal brands for them. So yeah, I mean, your personal brand, it's really just your reputation, and it's what you want people to think about when they hear your name.
Got it. So you accidentally became an expert at this. That's kind of
I wouldn't call myself an expert. I mean, I'm 20 years old, so I still got a long ways to go.
Well, it sounds like you're further along than most. So you started just with the YouTube videos,
Yeah,
the personal finance. You just started doing that because you enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, it was just creative for me.
Yeah, it was just kind of on your heart and you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But after that, that's when you started building your own Instagram and other people's, and you found a way to monetize that. So can you talk about that for a little bit?
For sure. So yeah, so I built my own personal page to about 10, from like 100 to like 10,000 followers. It took me about 6 to maybe 8 weeks to do that. So then I was like, okay, maybe I have something here. So then I took another account, started it from zero. It was like an entrepreneurship account. Started it from zero, got it to like 60,000 followers again in like 6 to 8 weeks. So at that point, I kind of felt like I was onto something. And with that account, I was actually monetizing that from like day one. So what I was doing there was I was doing affiliate marketing. So for those of you guys that aren't familiar, affiliate marketing is basically when you promote somebody else's product, service, offer, and then they give you a commission for all the sales you drive. So you don't get paid until you sell something for that person. So Amazon.com has an affiliate program where you can refer people to anything that you think is a good product on Amazon, and Amazon will give you a commission for any sales you make. So I was doing that. Not with Amazon. I was doing it with these things called engagement groups, which I'm not sure if they're still super big on Instagram, but basically what they were was it was this like facilitated group where you paid like, I don't know, it was like $7, $10 a month, I think, to be in this group. And then once you're in the group, you have to like and comment on all these other people's photos. Then they like and comment on your photos. And then theoretically, this shows Instagram that your photos are high quality. So then Instagram pushes them to more real people. And then you just get more exposure that way. So that was, I was promoting those groups. And with my account, I was able to I was probably making like maybe $1,000, $1,500 a month just promoting this one engagement group, because they had this leaderboard where whoever was at the top of the leaderboard every month got a like $200, $300, $400 bonus. So I was just winning that leaderboard every single month because, I mean, nobody else was really trying as hard as I was. I mean, like when I came into the game, there were like the people at the top of the leaderboard had like 12 referrals in a month. So I was like, dude, 12 is nothing. Like I came in and I was getting like 30, 40, 50 referrals a month. So I was getting all of those commissions plus that leaderboard every single month. So that was sort of the first monetization I was doing there. And yeah, stuck with that for maybe like 3-4 months until I kind of got sick of that because it was really just a lot of the same thing. as far as like how I was doing that, it was pretty simple. I had this kind of cool system that I was doing, but basically, I would just DM people, and I had this series of DMs that I would send them that basically explained what an engagement group was and why they should sign up for it. It was like 7 DMs long. I had it saved in the Notes app on my phone. Actually, no, I had it saved in keyboard shortcuts. So I would say uh, EGM1 was like engagement group message 1. So I would type EGM1. It would auto populate the first message that I wanted to send them about this engagement group. And I took them through this whole sequence. It was still manual. So I was still like sending all these messages, but it was super systematized, and I didn't have to do that much work. I'd log in like a couple times a day and just like send a buttload of messages and then get a bunch of people to sign up for it. And it was a legit service too. I mean, I was using it to grow my account, so I stood behind it. So that was how I started monetizing. And then from there, I started growing other people's accounts for them because I had figured out how to grow accounts all right. So then I was like, and how I expanded into that. If you guys want to hop in at all, I can take a breath for a second because I know I'll just like keep rambling. But
No, this is
some good stuff.
Unique stuff.
Okay.
How time consuming was this for you?
Dude, I mean, it was like summer. I think it was summer before my freshman year of college. So I had so much time. Like, I mean, I was working the first half of the summer, I was working a serving job, but like halfway through the summer, after once I started growing other people's accounts for them, I was making like significantly more money online than I was at my serving job. So I just quit that and just spent all of my like time that I wanted to be working online. So I just had a lot of time. I mean, I was mostly just spending time with my girlfriend or working, or spending time with my family. So, I mean, I didn't have that many commitments. So I kind of had time for this, but, and I'm never really I'm not very good at estimating how much time I spend on things just because I like to go all in on stuff. So I'll just like go all in on one thing. And that's like, it like consumes a lot of time for me and a lot of my thought, but it's stuff that I enjoy. So like, it's hard for me to like distinguish between like what I'm just doing for enjoyment and what I'm doing for like quote unquote work. So yeah, there's that.
A lot of entrepreneurs, they feel the same way. You know, they enjoy building businesses and doing what they're doing. So it doesn't even feel like work. I know it sounds cliche, but yeah.
So what are some of the tools that you've used, or like personal branding tools that you've used to help grow your personal brand? Like what type of things?
Yeah. So the number one thing that you have to be doing is obviously putting out content, because if you don't tell people what you're about, then no one's going to know what you're about. So it's like when you start a podcast or when you start a YouTube channel, like if you don't tell anybody about it, like no one's going to know about it. So you need to make sure that you're actually actively putting out content that expresses who you are and what you're about, and why people would want to follow along with that, why people would care about what you're doing. So that's the number one thing. And that's kind of the biggest hurdle for a lot of people is they don't want to commit to actually creating content because it makes them vulnerable. And it's scary to just put yourself out there in front of the internet, because there's a lot of people out there who might say bad things about you. And your friends might think you're weird, and your family might think you're dumb. And like, there's all these things that could happen theoretically if you start putting yourself out there. So that's the biggest hurdle to get over. And once you're over that, I mean, it's really making yourself unique, especially in the podcasting space. I just see so many copycat podcasts that people think that they can just be Gary V 2.0 and that's going to allow them to achieve the results that Gary V has gotten. But it's not, because he's been creating content for like 12 years or something. He's got a team of like 20 people just working on his personal brand. Like, you can't replicate that, and you trying to isn't going to appeal to anybody who hasn't already found Gary V 1.0 and resonates with him. So you need to find ways to make yourself unique. And it's not about saying something. It's not necessarily about saying something different, because two people can be saying the exact same thing in slightly different ways. And both of them can achieve success with that, because different people are going to resonate with different voices and different ways of saying the same thing. So you need to find ways to make yourself unique. You need to find ways to make yourself stand out from the crowd, because if you blend in, if you do what everyone else is doing, you're going to get the same results that everyone else gets. And most people aren't getting that great of results. So that's the key stuff right there. A lot of people are looking for some kind of secret sauce. And I mean, I haven't found anything so far. And in interviewing over 250, like 7, 8, 9, 10-figure entrepreneurs, there doesn't seem to be much of a secret sauce. So when it comes to personal branding, I mean, it's really just putting out consistent content, being genuine with people, because people's BS meters are quite good. And if you try to like put on some kind of front or pretend you're something you're not, people are going to see right through that. They're not going to resonate with you and your actual message. So you need to be comfortable with yourself. And you need to have that sort of, I mean, confidence, but also, yeah, I mean, just like ability to be yourself, step into yourself, and really just convey that to other people. So the biggest stuff, start creating content that is true to you and what you're about. And don't worry about what other people are doing. Okay. Like you can look at other people for inspiration, but for the most part, it's really just comes down to like you doing you and just like telling people about what you're doing. Like be loud about it, be controversial. Okay. Don't just try to be the person that says what everybody else says or does what everybody else does, or like try to be like Gary Vee 2.0 or Grant Cardone 2.0. Like it's not gonna do anything for you.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. That's awesome.
So now you've got these followers, you've got this personal brand. What does it do for your business, and why is it so important to
so I mean,
business?
For my personal business, my personal brand is not actually that important, because how I make money is not by selling things to people who follow me. I don't have a problem with people who do that. I mean, a lot of people do that. A lot of people have success with it. And a lot of people provide a lot of value to the people that follow them by selling them stuff, and like props to them, like go for it. But that's not what I do. So how I make money is I do marketing for larger influencers. So a lot of the people that I have on my podcast, well, not a lot of them, but some of the people that I have on my podcast, afterwards, after I've already built that relationship, I'll end up doing work for them, whether it is building their website, doing some email marketing for them, some paid social. So that's how I make my money. So the number of followers that I have, the number of people that are in my ecosystem does not directly relate to that at the moment. And the reason why I think it's definitely very important to have a personal brand, regardless of what your business model is because you just want to have people aware of what you're doing, because it's going to open up a lot more doors for you. For example, I've been doing a lot more public speaking lately, which has come about as a result of people who are in my ecosystem, people who are following me, reaching out and saying, hey, I am either the organizer of this event, or I know the organizer of this event, and we'd love to have you come out and speak. Is that something that you do? And just stuff like that. So the more people whose radar you're on, the more opportunities are going to be presented to you. And a lot of times those opportunities are bogus. I mean, I get so many emails every single day of just these opportunities that I would never want to take up. But without putting myself out there, like, people would never find me. People would never even be able to reach out and give me these opportunities, because they wouldn't know who I was. So the more people you have in your ecosystem, the more opportunities are going to come your way is the main thing. And I mean, maybe that is the opportunity to like sell them something. Maybe that's the opportunity to go speak somewhere. But yeah, it's just getting on people's radars is the main benefit that I see.
Right. Yeah. So you kind of building that network of people,
Yeah.
Even if you don't know them personally, they know you. It's somehow based off of your content. So.
Yeah. And tell us real quick about your podcast and just what made you, what got you to start that, and how you do it.
Sure. So yeah, I started, I think, a little over 18 months ago now. And this was like picking up where we left off with, like, I started growing other people's Instagram accounts, turned that into a business, was making some decent money for a college student. And my college radio station actually reached out to me and wanted to interview me on the radio about the business that I was running. So I did that interview. And after that, I was like, dang, that was super cool. Like, I love just like sitting down and like chatting it up with someone and like sharing my story. So I was like, I want to do more of that. And at the time, I didn't actually know what a podcast was. I was just trying to figure out like how to interview people. And since I didn't have access to like radio broadcasting equipment, I just sort of like Googled how to interview people, stumbled onto podcasting, and I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. So that same week, I started my podcast. And it really just went from there. But yeah, originally it was more on like the personal finance side of things. I was really just like doing solo episodes, teaching about like Roth IRAs, investing and whatnot. And those episodes are still up. I leave them up to show how bad they are. because they're really bad. I typed out an entire script for all of these. They were like 30-page scripts. It was crazy. Like,
Wow.
to put all these scripts together, you got a book.
That's funny.
Yeah, and I would just sit down in the studio and just read my script in front of the computer, and it sounded so dull, and you really so
Sound like a robot.
It's terrible. Like, I listen to them, and I can listen for about 30 seconds, and then I'm just cringing so hard that I have to do something else because they're bad.
Funny.
But yeah, so then eventually, as I started, I really didn't know anyone at that point. I didn't really have a network of people that I could like reach out to and interview. So it wasn't really until I went to my first in-person event that I really met a ton of people that I could interview and started building my network and doing more of an interview-based show. But yeah, so that's sort of about 18 months ago, about like 250 episodes deep. So it's been going well so far.
And
Awesome.
when you did the interview, when you switched from the personal finance thing into the interview based platform, did the listens that you got, did it exponentially go up?
Oh yeah. So when I was doing just solo episodes, I wasn't really marketing it. I wasn't taking it very seriously. Instagram was still my main business at the time. So it was kind of just like a side project that I was doing for fun. But yeah, once I switched to interviews, it was also around the time that I switched to interviews, and then a few months later, I started like really going serious at it. But yeah, interviews definitely increased the listens, but yeah, then really committing to it and actually dedicating the time to really marketing it appropriately was another like big jump.
Awesome.
Wow, very cool.
So you said you went to the in-person events, and that's when you really found a bunch of people to interview. What type of event was that, and how did that conversation kick off with the person to get them involved or interested in getting on the show?
So the first event that I ever went to was called FinCon, and it's a conference for people who create financial related content, whether that's like YouTube, podcast, blogs, whatever. So I went to that event because the organizer of the event reached out to me and invited me to apply for a scholarship. They give out, I think, like 50 scholarships every year to people who have been creating content for less than a year to go to the conference for free. And I was like, I would go to a conference for free. Like, I'm not going to turn that down. So I applied for the scholarship. I got it. And then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to Florida to go to this conference. So I packed my bags, went to Florida. And as soon as I got there, I really just started introducing myself to everybody that I saw, because I was like, man, I'm at this conference. I'm here for free. I'm going to take full advantage of this. So I was just like introducing myself to everyone, like hardcore networking. I got like hundreds of business cards. It was crazy. And then I followed up with literally every single person, which was another crazy thing. But really what happened was, I would just go to the event. I introduced myself to people. After they were done speaking, I would walk up to them. I would say, hey, I would introduce myself to random people in the hallway, and really just like hearing people's stories and just trying to learn as much as I could from as many people as I could, because I was so new to everything that I'm like, man, I got so much to learn. And all of these people are doing really cool things that I could learn a ton from. So it was really just, I was just introducing myself to people, making myself known. I mean, I look a little bit weird. I got a bandana and I got colored hair. So like I stand out a little bit. My name's Apple. So people tend to remember that. So I was just really, networking. And then afterwards, just following up, and just getting people locked in to come on my podcast. Most of the people that I met in person, I didn't like actually invite them on my podcast, because at the time I wasn't doing interviews. So I didn't really even have that idea until after the event, when I had all these business cards. I'd introduce myself to all these people, and I was like, dude, like I could really continue the conversation with all these people if I just invited them on my podcast and got to like chat them up for like an hour. So that's sort of where that came from, if that answers the question.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah, that definitely does.
So,
that's great.
So tell us what the name of your podcast is. Is it daily, weekly? I know you said you got over 250 interviews. So
so it's called Young Smart Money. And as of right now, I went through a sort of a pivot recently. I'm doing 3 times a week. We're doing Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, changing it up a little bit, not the traditional Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Got to be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and 3 times a week. And right now, the sort of the gist of the show, and the gist of the show has always been to give young people the financial skills that they need to be successful in the real world. Right now, it's focusing more on the make money side of things, and the two sort of spectrums that I'm interviewing right now are startup founders and social media influencers, because I'm super fascinated by both of those like sort of areas. And I think allowing young people to hear from both sides of that spectrum is really important, because a lot of people will like just listen to the Instagram influencers and they won't learn anything about like the startup side of things. And that's sort of where I was at. But once I started meeting more people in the startup side, I was like, dang, like this is a really cool side of things as well. So now I'm sort of comparing and contrasting both sides of that spectrum for young listeners to sort of figure out like, okay, what do I like about this? What do I like about that? So that's the gist of it.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Sounds like you got it all planned out and they're looking good for you. So.
That's the impression I like to give.
Yeah, I want to keep going with this. What's the next? Because it sounds like you're just keep building things. So what's the next, or what's in the works? Can you give us a preview of what you got coming down the pike?
Yeah, for sure. So there's the next thing that's coming in the pipe, and kind of like it's sort of launched right now, is Podblade. So Podblade is this idea that me and another podcasting friend had, where we are making podcasting more accessible to people. So it started off with just a Facebook group where we were just sharing our information, and the one that you referenced, where you guys heard me talk about personal branding. So we started this group really just to help people, educate people and whatnot. And we started getting people in the group, got up to a few hundred people, and we're like, dang, this is super cool. Like, let's see what more we can do for these people. So we asked them, like, what are your struggles? Like, what could we do for you? Like, how could we help you? How could you, like, what would it benefit you as a podcaster? And the overwhelming response was like, editing is the worst thing ever. I hate editing my show. I don't want to edit my show anymore. Please help me. So once we heard that, we're like, all right, let's try to figure this out. So I've had an editor for my show for over a year. And she does an amazing job. So I was like, all right, let's try to scale this and like see how we can create something here. So we ended up creating a super low cost podcast editing solution for people, where their show gets edited, both video and audio. It gets published on all the podcast platforms, on YouTube. The title is written, the description is written, the show notes are written. Everything is done. There's a YouTube thumbnail. There's social media graphics. There's probably other stuff too that I can't remember right now. But basically, we just created this all-encompassing solution where people basically send us their raw files, and then we literally do everything else for them, give them stuff to promote it with, and send them on their merry way. So that's what we're working on right now, and really just working out the kinks so that we can really scale that hard. But yeah, that's the latest project.
That's awesome.
That's all. I mean, that's.
And we're actually that's what we use, so it's great. So no, that's all good stuff. I love it.
Sweet.
All right. Well, Apple, now it's time. We're going to transition over to our moments of truth questions here. Okay. So we have you sent the questions beforehand, but we didn't get to that point so far. But these are all questions you should know the answers to. So I'll kick it off. Who is your success role model?
My success role model, I'm going to have to say my mom. I actually had her on the podcast a long time ago, but she runs her own business. She's been a public speaker for about 10 years. And she's someone who's provided me with a lot of insight. She asks a lot of really good questions that really make me think about what I'm doing. And she's been really instrumental and pivotal for me in really just like getting to where I'm going.
Awesome. I'll agree with you on that one. There's been times where my mom tells me something, I roll my eyes at her, and a week later I'm like, oh, she was right. And I tell her and she's happy about it. But
yep,
I agree with you on that one.
That's right. So since you're so old and so seasoned, Apple, we got to ask. I'm just kidding. No. So what is your biggest success thus far?
Like, I don't really like define myself as like successful. I think the coolest thing to me is just the coolest thing is just the messages that come in, and like people telling me about how what they've heard on the podcast or on my YouTube channel or whatever has like, they've done it and it's changed their lives. So like for me, the biggest success is just all the messages that come in of people being like, hey man, like this stuff works. Like, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So what's a typical day for you look like?
Oh man. I know everybody always says like no day is typical, but it really fluctuates depending on like what season I'm in, and like season just meaning like what my main priority is. I always outline my top 3 things. Like I have the night before I wake up, or when I go to bed rather, I make a checklist of 3 things that if I get these 3 things done the next day, that day will have been a success for me. So it's really just executing on the 3 things. I go to class once in a while, so that's in there too. I like spending time with friends. I'm not someone who's trying to build the next like $1 billion company. So like I see a lot of value in spending time with people and in building relationships. So that's something I'm very focused on right now as well, especially as I'm in my last semester of college. I've been doing a lot of self-reflection recently on like what I want to get out of this last semester. So right now it's a lot of spending time with people, because that's what I want to be doing in this season of life. But I mean, it's just like getting work done. It's getting on my computer, sitting at my desk, and just working on stuff. I'm doing a lot more reading lately. But I mean, yeah, no day is typical, but that's that's kind of the overview.
That's great. What's your favorite quote, Apple?
My favorite quote, tying back to what I just said, is don't start your day until it's finished. So Jim Rohn said this, and basically how I interpret it is don't start today until you've already planned it out. So that's why the night before I make my 3-item checklist of like, here are the 3 things that I really want to get done tomorrow. So that I know when I wake up, like, okay, these are the 3 things that I'm going to do. I'm not sitting around for like 30 minutes, like twiddling my thumbs, being like, oh, what do I want to do today? I could do this or that or the other thing. So I do that. I also plan out my day. I leave some leniency in there, but I have a rough outline of my day as well that I put with that 3-step checklist of like, all right, so from 5:30 to 6, I'm going to be eating breakfast. From 6 to 7:15, I'll be at the gym. From 7:15 to 7:30, I'll be showering. Like I'll lay out my day like that. So that works as well for me. So I don't have to think about like when I want to do certain things. So that's been that's been really impactful for me, is just like having that plan from the go.
Yeah, I think writing things down is extremely important.
Yeah.
So what are some of your hobbies?
Ooh, so I really like swing dancing. And if I would have heard myself say that like 12 months ago, dude, I would have been like, who is this man? What is he talking about?
It's not a common answer, I will say.
No, it's not. And like, I'm somebody, I'm like not creative. I don't do art. I don't do like anything creative. I don't sing. I can't. It's bad. So like, I never would have expected myself to like get into dancing, but like, I was doing this thing with some buddies of mine last year where we were trying to get out of our comfort zone. So every week we'd do something different. Like one week we'd go do karaoke. One week we'd go to a swing dance lesson. And so we went to this swing dance lesson, and they all hated it, but I was like, dude, I love this. So I started coming back every single week. Now I'm an instructor. So I teach swing dance.
No kidding.
So, yeah, I mean, cool. that's the number one right there.
Very cool.
Yeah. So if you any advice, it's get into swing dancing.
Exactly. I mean, it's such a good way to meet people too. Like you only have to talk to someone for like a few minutes. Like if the conversation goes terribly, you just walk away and never see them again. It's great. It's a great way to socialize too. Like get out of your comfort zone, meet people. Can't emphasize it enough.
Wow.
That's very cool. All right. What's the best business book that you've read?
The best business book that I've read. I don't know. I think it really depends on like where someone's at as far as like when someone asks me like, what book should I read? I'm like, I have to know a lot about you first before I can like give you a book recommendation. But if you're just getting started, definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Book is like, it's not like an actionable business book, but it really just gives you some really core fundamental ideas that you can use to really change how you think about money, how you think about the world. Reading that book was really impactful for me. I just finished this book called Profit First, which has also been really cool. It's about like this accounting system that helps you keep track of everything and not feel like you don't know where your money's coming from and where it's going. So that's recent, but yeah, Rich Dad Poor Dad's a pretty good one.
Awesome.
All right, Apple, last question here. If there's one key piece of advice you can leave our listeners with about achieving success, what do you think it would be?
I would say focus, to be honest, because there's so many ways that you that you could become successful, and there's so many things that you could do, but you can't do all the things. So you have to really think about like, which things do you actually like doing and which things do you actually want to commit to doing. So if you're young, if you're just getting started, like me, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in like 5 years. Literally no clue. Like there are so many things that I could be doing. So for me, it's like, keep your options open. Don't like pigeonhole yourself too early. But also just be mindful of the fact that if you try to do everything, you're not going to have success with anything. So you need to like try different things, but once you find something that you really like commit to that for a while and like actually go all in on that. And once you do that, then you can start to see success. But if you don't, if you're not willing to actually fully commit to something, then it's going to be really hard for you to really get anywhere with anything. So have that focus and be able to commit to something for at least a little while.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's great. That's great.
All right, App.
Yeah, I'll go. Apple, what are some of your what are some of the wants and needs for your business and everything that you're doing right now?
Wants and needs? To be honest with you, like I'm kind of all right. I my main focus right now is just connecting with really high caliber people for my podcast, interviewing like CEOs and founders of companies that people actually know of, like on the street. Like if you say like the CEO of like Tinder, for example, like people will be like, oh shoot, like I listen to that. Yeah. So really connecting with those high level individuals and really just like leveling up on my network is my main focus right now. Cause as far as like client work goes, like I'm doing pretty all right on that. The main thing is just like up in my network and connecting with those high level individuals.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm sure that's a tough task, but probably pretty rewarding as well.
Indeed.
So, yeah. All right, Apple. So how can people our listeners get in contact with you if they've got questions, or if someone's listening, let's say the CEO of Tinder is listening to this and he wants to get on your show. How do you think he can, how can he get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the best way is probably, I guess I'll say Instagram. So Instagram at Apple Crider Official. Crider is spelled like cider, but with an R. So that's the best place to just shoot me a message. If you're interested in podcasting, I mentioned that free group that we started through Podblade, and that's just www.podcasting.group. We'll take you to that. Again, it's free to join. But those are the two places where I actively communicate. So hit me up on one of those places, or if you want to drop me an email, be old fashioned, apple@applecrider.com is where you can do that.
Awesome.
All right, Apple. Well, we appreciate you taking time out and speaking with us today. I'm sure our listeners definitely got some inspiration from your 20-year-old self. But before we go here, our listeners, don't forget to join us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/wealthjunkies. And again, subscribe to our show and leave us a review and rating so we know how we're doing. Again, Apple, thanks for joining us today.
Yep.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Will. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks so much, Apple.
Awesome. Everybody have a great day.
You've been listening to the Daily Wealth Junkie Show, brought to you by CEO Capital Partners. CEO Capital Partners works with business owners and executives to build passive income through multifamily apartment syndications. For more information about how you can invest in quality multifamily real estate assets and build significant streams of passive income, visit us today at ceocapitalpartners.com.